for like a 2-month project, how much did you say like on average you charge?
I would probably offer them around 20 to 25k euro. Yeah.
That's a great position you're in, because if you're saving this company money and you also become very specialized in that, and if that guy doesn't know anyone else that can do what you're doing, like you're in a very good position. The more money you save, the more you can charge, and it's a win-win for both of you. So yeah, you have the opportunity to be like making 100k because you just need like 5 projects at 20k and you're there. So
a year, I hope, not a month. I don't have.
Well,
I can't do that much.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're gonna constantly be dealing with fulfillment, like unlocking all the bottlenecks there, hiring people to do the work, and then you just keep growing. And then that's how a lot of companies pretty much grow. So how's everything been going with you?
Fast and good.
Yeah.
Everything, yeah, it's insane. So everything from like the last session we had, or the last time we spoke, I had a few goals, mainly short-term goals in the like position that I was in at the company, and then things just escalated a lot quicker than I anticipated, and here I am. I started my own visualization studio / design studio with another guy from that company, and it's going good. So yeah, it's been an exciting year also, but mainly this 2022 half year.
So what made you make the switch
to start my own?
Yeah, like what was that moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this?
I don't know, a lot of things. So you and I, when we had our first meeting, or one of the first, you wanted to know like my short-term goals and also my long-term goals. So you had like year by year, where you see yourself in like 1 year, 2 years, up to 5 years. And ever since I started to, as you know, ever since I started to like at university studying to design and visualization, I almost always like saw myself doing my own thing at one in like a couple of years. But then I worked at like a lead visualization position at the old company, and I loved it. I had a small team, and I had a lot of fun projects, like the one we worked on, with bigger animation projects, and a lot of smaller, like basic white background images for the website and for press releases and stuff. And then the design team got a rework early this year. So my position would be like, it was a part of the whole global design department, and I had my own team, and we did all the visualization projects for all the like daughter companies of the company that I worked at. But the rework of the design team meant that my position would be more towards one or just a few of the daughter companies, and that meant that the budget for the project would be smaller, and therefore not as fun. So bigger animation projects would probably be outsourced. And we saw that as a good opportunity to be the consultancy that they outsourced to. So we had a discussion, me and a friend that also worked at the design team. And we figured that maybe if we start our own consultancy, we can, like, we have good connections with all the daughter companies, so we can, be the first partner that they choose, because we already knew the design layout, the workflow that they like us to have. So it was like pretty natural for them, was the idea to choose us in like the first, because we knew the products and the brand. So that's how it started, and we did that. We had the discussion with our like head of design and the CEO of the company, and everyone were like that's like perfect for them as well, because they get to continue the work at the same quality as it was, without involving a new visualization company that maybe don't know how they want it to be. But also they get the opportunity to continue with the more expensive projects, because the daughter companies pay the consultancy, us, instead of they having to do it. So that's how it started. And then we started to get like work from other companies that had nothing to do with this, based on purely reputation and word of mouth. So yeah, we already have, this is like the 4th month. We started in February. So, and we already have a lot to do. So yeah, it's fun. Going fast.
That's awesome, because I remember your whole thing was like, hey, I want all these outsourced projects to come to me, and I just want to know that I can do the work. And now you're in that position you wanted to be in. That's awesome.
not in the same way. Like, I wanted the outsourced projects to be done in-house by my visualization team at the company, and it was like that for a few months, like the end of last year. But now it is like that, but also with projects that has nothing to do with this company, like in all sorts of fields, cosmetics and medtech, technology, a lot of stuff. And that's what, I want to work with a lot of different projects. I like to challenge myself to technical instructive videos that show how you operate the machine, to purely motion graphic, looking good, selling, marketing. So
I think it's a good fit for you to have your own company, because you have a very like entrepreneurial personality. And if you're like confined in this one company where they would be telling you what to do all the time and which kind of projects you can work on, I don't think you would handle that for very long. So it's good that you can still do that, but you have your own freedom to go out there and do other projects and get other clients as well. Yeah.
And also one big motivator, or something that we discussed the last time, was the like salary, or the payment you get from projects. I want that to be fair for the amount of work that I put in. And as an employee, because I worked for almost a year after the education, and as an employee you get like your salary based monthly. So it doesn't really matter in the short term if I put a lot of work or a short amount of work, as long as I deliver what's promised. But when you run your own thing, you can base the price on the work and the thing that you deliver, and that feels better to me, because I am. If you're someone that doesn't put in the time, then a base like salary is better, because then you can always do the bare minimum as long as everyone's happy. But if you like to do like the maximum and deliver, it's better to have like a bonus system if you're employed, or have your own thing, a freelance or something.
But that is a good point, because if you're working in a company, you are very confined to how much your potential growth is over like a 20-year, 30-year period, which is fine for a lot of people. A lot of people, they just want to do the projects. They don't care about the money or working hard. They like their lifestyle where they do 3D stuff during the day. They go home, they spend time with family. But then for people, I've got a similar personality to you, where sometimes like, okay, for the next 3 months, I want to grow something. I want to hustle, double my income, all that stuff. And if you're working in a company, doesn't matter how hard you work, your salary is only going to go up so much. Whereas if you have your own business, your own studio, you kind of get rewarded based on the amount of work that you put in and the way you think about things and how much you can kind of innovate in the business. Whereas with a studio, it's a bit limited. So for some people, having their own studio definitely is the better option, because then you can grow as much as you want and you're not like confined.
Basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And also like everything, that's also something new to me. Or actually, I don't know, it's new to the work environment, but it's pretty common when I like did my master's and the school, that I love to have, I love to have a deadline and an expectation of what to deliver, and then have no one watching over my shoulders on how I do the
Yeah.
process. Like, because I love, I'm most creative like at night or at later in the day. And I also love, I'm pretty active. I like to, now in Sweden, it start to get pretty like warm and the sun comes out. So I like to do a lot of outdoors activities, and I like to do them when the sun is out, obviously. And that's not that easy when you're stuck at the office until like 5 p.m. or whatever. So that's also something that I value by being self-employed, that you have that freedom. So there's a lot of things that I think we talked about when we had one of the first, like you were pretty like keen on knowing not only what my goals are, but why are those my goals. You remember when I said like, oh, I want to run my own thing, um, to some people that would be enough. Okay, you want to be self-employed, but you were more like you wanted to break those goals down to like, why do you want to be self-employed? Is it for the freedom? Is it for the salary? And I had that with me in the back of my head, and I can see now when I am self-employed that those were the things that I enjoy, and that I value.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar. I think the biggest thing for me is just freedom.
You definitely have freedom.
Well, that's what I value the most. Because if you're someone that can operate and get things done, then it's like, why would you want to be stuck to a schedule and things like that? So I like to, I get things done very quickly, so I like to just do that, and then I can do whatever I want with the rest of my time. And I think some people might struggle with that if they're not disciplined, or if they just don't enjoy the work, or they just want someone to tell them what to do, which is fine. But I think for some people, it's better to, just have everything in their control. But yeah, that's cool, man. You're on your way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
And it's cool, like you said, when you're employed, you have a set amount of hours that you need to work, and I believe that you shouldn't be punished for being efficient and being hardworking and fast. And that's also a thing when I work for someone, that I'm also, I think, pretty efficient and work pretty fast. And when I'm like in my zen, in my zone, I don't take any breaks, and I just focus because that's how I like working. So when I'm like at the office, when I was employed, I saw that a lot of people, that's not how most people work. Most people need like a couple of minutes break every hour, and they grab a coffee and they do whatever. And you shouldn't be punished for being efficient. So for you as an example, we talked about some of your projects when I had the course, and some of them, you got done in just a couple of weeks. And as if those projects would have been done as an employee, your boss would probably tell you to start on another project because, oh, you're done, amazing, let's like get you another project. But because you're a self-employed, you can then take a holiday or whatever for 2 weeks, for the duration or do whatever you want. That's also something that I value, that if I work hard, then I have two options: either take a longer weekend or whatever, or I can start another project and get even more paid. Like those are the two options that I now have the ability to choose between.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's just like choice gives you freedom.
Mm.
I remember I consulted in a studio for about a week where they paid me to fly there to work inside the studio for a week. That's when I realized I didn't want to become an employee, because I thought my whole dream at like, I think like 2.5 years ago, I was like, oh, I want to be a creative director. That sounds epic. You just get all these projects from Nike and all these huge companies. And I worked in a studio that was doing that. And I finished projects so fast that they just kept on giving me more. As soon as I was done, I was sometimes like watching YouTube videos. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm done. And then they're like, okay, let me give you another thing. But I'm like, no, but I'm finished. And then they just kept on giving me more and more stuff. And I was like, wow, it's like, I won't have any free time, because the more projects I finish, they just give me more stuff to do. And then I look behind me, and this dude is spending the whole day on such a small thing. And I'm like, I'm working so much and I'm getting paid probably the same amount. And there's not much room for growth. Whereas if you have your own company and your own studio and you have your own clients, if you get done within like a week or two, you can decide, do I want to take the rest of the time off? Do I want to take another project and get double my income? Which is great, because that's what allowed me to travel in Bali, because like you can get huge projects that fund you for a very long time. And then it's up to you whether you want to finish them quickly and take a huge holiday, or finish them quickly and get even more money. It's really your own choice, because you can have periods of like, okay, I want to hustle, I want to grow the company. And you can also have periods of, I want to take a holiday. Whereas in a company, it's kind of like you're just in this fixed role, regardless of how hard you work.
The freelancing, I guess, is more or less the same freedom. It's basically the same thing. In Sweden, we have different tax rules. That's like the only main difference.
Yeah, so I guess we can go into where you were before all of this, before we even started working together. Yeah, where were you before you signed up with me, started working together? What were you doing?
So that was like in July, I think, last year.
Yeah.
We maybe were in contact a bit before that, but like started the actual course then, or the master class. So I graduated from masters here in Sweden in industrial design this time last year, so in May last year, and I had been working at the company that I got employed at after school. I did my like thesis there, so I had worked for them for a couple of months, and I had just gotten like 1 or 2 months prior to our masterclass started. I got like full time, and I think like I got employed as an industrial designer. But I told my boss that I wanted to focus more on visualization. That was like the thing that I liked. And he told me upfront that, yeah, sure, we can like custom tail your workload to be more like the end of the design process, because visualization is a huge part of industrial design. So mainly the first couple of months were like, I did some design. I helped the team with product design. And then when it came to the time to showcase this new proposed design to the managing team or to the customers, I did the visualization for that. But I wanted to be more into marketing of the company and do more visualization of the products for marketing purposes and social media and stuff like that. So yeah, that was my like position. I was just transitioned into more marketing and visualization when you and I got in contact, with the goal of being more mainly like do nothing with product design, but just visualization.
I see. Cool. And what made you want to sign up with me?
So, so basically, I don't want to sound like too cocky or anything, but I had, I when I'm into something, I do like all the way, and I'd been doing visualization for 3 years or something, my whole master plus a couple of months before in my candidate or my grad school. So I start to feel that all the like videos and tutorials and stuff online was stuff that I already knew. If I came across a problem with visualization, I Googled it, like always, YouTube, and the things that I found were mainly stuff that I've already tried. So I started to look for, or actually, I didn't start to look for a course, but one of the like YouTubers that I followed, or like the thing was that I'm using Blender with Octane, or I used Blender with Octane. So the first like expansion of my knowledge grabbing procedural was to look beyond just my software. So like the first thing was, all right, how do you do this in Blender? And I looked at tutorial, and then I figured that a lot of programs are like based on the same workload or workflow. So I started to look at like 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, look for the same tutorials but for other softwares, and then I implemented it to Blender. So that was the way that I got in, that I found your YouTube channel mainly. So it was a couple of months where I looked tutorials and stuff on. I think Cinema 4D is one of the biggest product animation softwares used. So it was like I got a lot more hits on YouTube when I searched Cinema 4D. How do you do this instead of Blender? How do you do this? And then one of your videos, I think it was the one with the beard oil and the droplet coming from the palm trees or the leaves. And at that time, I worked for a company that also had beard oils and cosmetic products, and they had just asked me if I wanted to do a bigger video for them for their, I think it was hair clay or beard clay or something, and I found that. And in that tutorial or in some videos that I watched of yours, you mentioned that like, yeah, you did some plugging. If you want to have a bit more education, I also have this one-on-one, and I looked it up, and yeah. So I don't think, honestly, I don't think it was like yours specific, but I liked, or I loved your other content, and you did the exact like commercial style that I wanted to have. So it was natural to, because a lot of like things on YouTube that people that have courses is more like character animation or short films, and I think that's super cool, but that's not what I want to do. You had purely like commercial advertisement stuff in a style or like in a creative way that I like, and I think it looks good, and it also, I think your style of animations it works for a wide range of products and product categories. You can do like cosmetics like that. You have computers, you have headphones, and that's also something that I found important if I want to do a course. So yeah, that's how I found you, and then later decided to do your masterclass.
So yeah, what was your experience like going throughout the program? I know there's a few factors. One on the one hand, you have that you have a great personality, or, getting good at stuff and being entrepreneurial. Because as you mentioned, when you do something, you do it properly and you do it quickly, which I noticed because I've got a very similar personality. I know Dean, he's another guy who's got a very similar personality. There's that factor, but at the same time, you're also using Blender. And when you did sign up, to be honest, a lot of your visualizations were pretty good, especially the still images. I was like, wow, this guy could probably do better work than I can. Yeah, like what? Because I know we worked quite a lot on, like we were looking at huge commercials, like commercials that are going for 50K, 100K in euros, and you're like, I want to be able to make that. So I'm curious what your process was like. Firstly, how was your process, using different software to me? Was that a struggle? Did you find it easy to translate the information? Yeah, you can answer that one first.
So at that time, I used Octane in Blender. Now I'm using CycleSex. It works, natively with Blender is a lot less workarounds and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, I used Octane, which you are as well in Cinema 4D. So like with the translation wise, you need to have some like base knowledge of how the how the system works. But if you have that, it's basically the same thing. You just have to find where the stuff are. And then also you helped me a lot. You did like some screen sharing with like when we optimized the settings. I don't know if that was like the first time you saw Blender UI with Octane, but you found like everything instantly. So I don't think it's like a huge difference. So yeah, to use different operating set. Now you have Metaverse, so I guess now it's even easier. But yeah, that wasn't a problem. And you showed all like when you gave me lessons with like when you used your old projects to communicate something with me. The things that we discussed weren't program or software based. It was more theory behind a good video. How if what I needed to help with was like model preparation and software optimizing, obviously I would need to have the same software as you have, or find a teacher that uses Blender. But for me, what I wanted help with was more how fundamentally, how do you make a good commercial and good marketing material? Lighting and all of that is universal across all software. Not even software. It's basically the same for videograph, like filming in a studio. You need a basic understanding of what lights create what mood, what camera angles and duration of clips create what, so actually, back to the point that we talked about previously, when I expanded my like knowledge grabbing process, I watched a lot of like film theory as well, like videographers, like YouTubers that explaining how you make a good YouTube video, because the same fundamentals are used in animations and videos. So yeah. Did I did answer?
No, you
the
answered
question,
my question. That's a great point. Focus on the fundamentals, because every software has the buttons are in different places and it looks visually different, but the fundamentals are the same. You can. This is what I learned. Like you can know Blender, Cinema 4D. What's that other one that people love to learn?
Keyshot or.
Yeah, Keyshot. What's that crazy one with all the simulations? I always forget its name.
Houdini.
You can know all that stuff, sure, where all the buttons and the algorithms are in different places, but if you don't know the fundamentals of how to light something well, how to make something look good, let alone understanding, the company and what they want, like it doesn't matter how many different software if you don't know the fundamentals, your work just won't look good.
And I think also like Cinema 4D and Blender I think those are pretty similar in like complexity and what you can do. But I think, I don't know, but I think there's a lot of people that start with visualization or anything like CGI related that go into programs like Houdini that are incredibly difficult, and everything is node based and procedural, and they think that the only way to get good results is to use this expensive and insanely advanced program, and they get like disappointed with the results because Blender is free, and there's like Chris Jones does this head rigging, like he does face modeling, and it's just, you wouldn't believe that that's like CG. You think it's a real human face, and that's done natively in Blender. So the program isn't the I don't know what you call it in English, like the bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's the bottleneck is your competence and your skill.
And in terms of working together, were there any, because as I mentioned, at least with still images, your work was pretty good. We worked a lot with animation and commercials. Was there anything that was like big aha moments, or anything that you surprisingly found challenging? As I said, we were looking at commercials that were going for like 50, 100K in euros. And you were like, okay, we found a project that was basically charged by a studio. And we were trying to make something similar to see if you could actually do that, so you could start doing those projects. Was there anything along that process that you found was like super challenging, or anything that was like any big aha moments when it comes to like learning?
Yeah. So overall, I think that like I just want to mention that like still images is a lot easier to fake or to do good if you spend a lot of time, because a lot of my images was good not because like the node tree of the material was properly made or something, but you could do some dodge and burning in Photoshop. You can tweak images a lot easier than you can in animations. So just because I had like some good still renders done of projects, it's a lot easier to, or it's like insanely how much easier it is to, like, if you're working with like the lighting of a product, if you have the viewport showing a product in one like frame in one angle, you can just tweak the lighting until it matches. But then instantly when you have a moving, like you doing an animation, you have to not only get the light to work in that frame, you have to know how reflections work and what looks good, and how the mood across that 4-second clip will change. It becomes insanely difficult if you compare it to still images. So that's like one reason I think to why maybe I have some good renders, but when it came to animation, it's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the one thing that I told you early on in the course that I wanted us to focus on is not like materials, not so much lighting, but it's like storyboarding and how you get a video that feels uniform and feels like coherent over the whole thing, and gives a mood to the viewer that you want them to get. And that's something that we focused a lot on. And there's a lot of small aha moments during the whole course, a lot of them, where you gave like small tips that I first kinda half ignored. I was like, nah, not gonna, it's unnecessary. And then I tried it and was like, what? So one of them, I remember probably the biggest one was that my workflow at the beginning of the course was that I, like when I had a sequence or like a clip done for the animation, you probably remember, I rendered it out in low sample and low resolution to get like a preview, and then I did all the previews and you could kind of see the whole thing. But even though it was like low samples and low resolution, it takes 10-20 minutes to render the clip out. And you pretty early on told me that it's probably easier for the next time to just do like a clay view or like capture the the viewport without shading, without any light data or like ray counts. So and I remember I ignored it for the first couple of weeks when we had the program, and then I was like, why do I have like a course where I get like this tip, and ignore? Why don't I like try everything that he have? Maybe I like it. If don't, it's not that much extra work. So I did, and it's insane. When I think back on it, I feel stupid because I, didn't realize that even though it's like 10 minutes per clip, if you want to do like even the smallest changes to a video and you have to wait 10, 20 minutes for each small iteration, you ignore so many of these iterations so that the end result turns out completely different. So basically when you render out in like viewport shading, it's almost instant. It takes like a few seconds. And if you just want to try to move, like have the camera panning faster or tilting up a bit, try some other rotation or anything like small things, those changes I usually unconsciously ignored when I knew that, oh, it's probably not worth it because I would need to render out like a 10-minute sequence or render for 10 minutes. But when I did the clay view, I obviously could do all those changes, and the result became a lot more thoroughly walked through because I had the opportunity to test things, and if I didn't like it, I could just go back. So those like small, I don't think I had like one big aha moment for the whole thing because I had pretty good knowledge of like the process, how it goes, and my expectation of the course was pretty like realistic. But I had a lot of like small tips and tricks like that, and also like technical things with the software. Like adaptive or like adaptive sampling, and a lot of things where I could cut down on render time but still have the same result. You mentioned sometimes that for some projects it's better to just capture like seed depth data and do motion blur in post, or like depth of field in post. That saves time. So there's a lot of like small tips and tricks that I've been utilizing in my process, thanks to like things that you can't Google and see a 10-minute YouTube video on, but things that the professionals or the high-end professionals probably do. And also working with layers, having like, if you have volumetrics, you can do that in one separate layer, and you can keep that so you don't have to re-render that layer. So yeah, a lot of things like that.
Yeah, I remember that was a big thing because we were working on a big commercial that required a lot of computing power. Yeah. And for weeks, we were spending a lot of time just waiting for renders to come through because there were there's unnecessary amount of time just going into the rendering. And I was like, bro, just do viewport renders.
Yeah.
That was quite funny.
And that's like, I think that's the biggest feature, or like maybe the only feature that I wish Blender had over Cinema 4D, because in Cinema 4D, as you know, you can like auto refresh the timeline in After Effects. In Blender you don't have that. But it's like a couple of seconds to just render out that clip and copy and paste it.
Cool. Cool. So so as we mentioned before you joined, you wanted to your short-term goals, working within your studio. A lot of the projects are getting outsourced. You want those outsourced projects to go to you, more enjoyment, more money, all of that stuff. But long-term view, start your own studio, have your own projects, have your own clients, your own freedom. Now you've gone and done that. You've gone through the program. For a few months, a lot of those projects were starting to come to you, and now you've actually gone out there, and now you've got your own studio. You've partnered up with someone. You've got your own projects, and it seems like you even contacted me a few days ago because you've got all this demand and all these projects, and you're looking for people to actually hire so that you can help with the delivery. Yeah, like where do you see yourself now in terms of short-term goals? Like where do you want to get to? Is your plan to grow and get a certain amount of clients or projects or earn a certain amount? And also like where do you think you would be long-term, like 5 years from now?
Yeah, so like short term, the couple of months or maybe like this year out is I will say me, but it's me and my partner in the company. But we had have goals both to get, because we have pretty consistent work, but the budget for the company is like obviously different. So some projects are bigger and they have a deeper pocket. Some are smaller, but companies that we've been working on previously. So we take on those projects as well. Um, and we have pretty, because the company that I work for is in biotech, so a lot of companies that we have projects for are daughter companies or people that have seen our work in the biotech industry. And I love working with biotech because the like complexity of the products is insane, and they usually want to show inside of the machine, so you get to work with a lot of small components, and you can make it super cool. But I also want to work a bit more with more typical consumer based products, maybe do some clothing, do some shoe commercials, more technology. I love, like personally, I love technology. I love headphones, TVs, computers. So, and we haven't done any work with like consumer-based technology, technical, yeah, like stuff like that. So I would like to get more, or like my goal is to get more customers that are in those fields, and also a bit more projects that are purely consumer oriented, so that, because some projects that we have that as well, but some projects that we have now are more for maybe to visualize how a machine is supposed to work, for the workers on the machine. If it's like a crane, they want to visualize how this crane is easier for the workers than maybe a previous crane or another design model. But I want to work with, or I want to have more projects that are like purely, we want the product to sell more, and we want you to make a commercial that gets people excited. So I don't know if you saw the iPhone 13 Pro, the green color that launched now in like a couple of months back. At the Apple event, they had this crazy, it was like the Hulk, the things, the iPhone turned green, and a lot of motion graphics. And that was obviously purely, it didn't show any features, any camera or a bigger screen, anything. It was just wow, what a cool color, I want that phone. And you can do a lot more, you have a lot bigger creative freedom when you do commercials like that than if you have a customer that actually want to show something. So all the projects that we have now are, all right, so this design have a bigger touch screen, and we want the viewer to understand that that's a good thing. All right, fair enough. But I think it would be good for my creativity to have a project that is just, all right, so this is the new design, and it's targeted to a more sporty target group, and we want the sporty younger people to get a connection to this project, help us, and then I can do like pure storyboarding and focus on that, and do a lot of cool splashes and metaflow animations and simulations, cooler stuff like that. So that's like one thing. And then also, like in terms of like the business, we are 2 people, and we already have almost like full workload just between us. So a short term is to the first step is to have someone to outsource to, Mainly, I think the easiest is to have a freelancer that's okay with, because we obviously need to take some percentage of because we deliver the work. So have a freelancer that's okay with getting work, no connection to the company. We do all the administrative workload, and that delivers at the same quality as I would. And if we get that, we would basically have a lot, because we have the opportunity to get in a lot of work. But the things that the problem right now is that I don't have too much time. I have like a full schedule. So that's like short term, and long term, like 3 to 5 years, is we're looking into maybe having like a actual, because right now we're both working from home. I want to have a smaller team based here in Gothenburg that work full time at an office, together, so I can do the fun parts. I can be more like art director of my team. We have some model preparation specialist. We have material preparation specialist. We have storyboard, someone that's super creative and do the amazing storyboards. And then I have like a good in-house team, so we can take on even bigger projects that I wouldn't be able to do purely by myself. So those are the short-term and long-term goals that we have.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's I'm excited because it's cool to see that you getting things that you've wanted. It wasn't even a year ago that we started and you're like, hey, I want all these big things. 1 year later.
Yeah, we said 5 years.
Yeah. Things can move a lot quicker than you think.
Yeah.
Sweet. And so it seems like you've a lot of these things have happened. Some people, the strategy, if you don't have any connections, you don't know anyone, you don't really have a network, then you have to go out there and build one and reach out to people. But it seems like it was more like, hey, just having the confidence that you can actually fulfill the work and do it. Then you actually got that work, and now you're doing it, and now other clients know that you can do it well, and now you're growing your company just based off word of mouth, just because other people know that you're good at what you do, that they're referring you, and that's all you really need in the short term in terms of at least getting more work than it seems like you can handle now. You've got a full schedule.
Yeah, we haven't done any. The first thing we did when we had like the website going and had everything like with the government here in Sweden done, was that we made like this Excel sheet with what do you call it, with like companies and people that we had some connections to, and contact information, just to have like in Sweden you call it prospect list. I don't know if it's the same word in English. It's like a list with so we made that, and we haven't been able to contact any of them because we started to get work before we contacted those companies. So that's like obviously a good thing. But now when we have the opportunity, or pretty soon at least, we have the opportunity to maybe do contact them, and if we don't have the time, we can outsource. Then obviously more money, more projects, more exposure, good things, and not something that I think we should wait for. Well, there's no reason if you look at the growth of a company, maybe some would say that take it easy is just easier to do the things that you do now for a year, see that everything goes. But yeah, we don't see a problem with going full throttle, just going all the way, as long as we don't increase our risks. I don't see the problem with like outsourcing if we get too much work. Sorry.
Cool. So your new bottleneck.
I forgot the question again. Sorry.
So your new bottleneck seems to be like fulfillment. Before it was like, oh, I don't have enough work, and now it's like you've got too much work and you actually need to deliver the services.
Yeah, basically. Then it's not that we have like people knocking on the door want us to do projects. It's more we are at the stage where we both have enough to do. He's doing more industrial design and I do visualization. And the thing is that I think if we wanted to, if we started to reach out to some of these companies, we would get more projects. And the problem, that we're having right now is that I don't want to reach out to companies because I know that if I reach out to 10 companies and one of them answers, perfect, I can handle that. If two of them answers or want to work done, maybe it's too much and I don't want to contact a company and then having to, it's like unprofessional to then a week later, we don't have the manpower to do this. So that's why we're looking into, we want to have a like a community with people that wants work, maybe that have this as a hobby but are like good at it, or that works freelance as visualization artists but don't have like fully packed themselves and would love to have a collab with a company that they can get something extra from. That would be perfect for us. Then we can, like, if we don't have too much, it's obviously more beneficial for us if I do all the projects. Then we don't have to pay anyone. I can just pay myself. But if we get to a point where, or if we had a community like that, I would feel more confident with that I can contact as much people or companies as I want, because I have like the work, the people to do the work if needed, if it became too much.
I see. So your first thought, because it's funny because you reached out to me because you're like, hey, you've got a mastermind full of people that are pretty good at what they do. So that's why you kind of messaged me. You weren't really sure where else to look in terms of finding artists and stuff.
Yeah, I could do like my own research and go on LinkedIn and look for people. And I also, I have an Instagram just for visualization where I have like where I get the inspiration, and the people that I follow there are only like people that do visualization and studios. So I could go through that. But what felt so natural to go through you is that obviously I know we know each other, and I know that you have a lot of experience with knowing what people's limits are and how good they are, and you also, the people in this community that you built are people that like have done the course, that are so like determined on their goals that they invested both time and money on doing a course. And I know that most people, not all, some people obviously will get into visualization, and the first thing they do is, I want to be the best right away, so the first thing I do is a masterclass. But I don't think the majority are like that. I think the most people, they learn a lot, and when they feel that they can't learn anything more with YouTube or stuff like that, they turn to a paid one-on-one coaching. So I feel like the people that you can recommend through your masterclass community are people that are enough motivated and experienced to fulfill like the requirements that I would have on them for the projects.
Interesting.
Cool. And also, like, one huge benefit is also for you. You are like a mentor, and you have these courses, and you obviously have them because you want to help people reach their goals. And for a lot of people in your course or in your community, I would believe that their goal is to get work. They want to get visualization work, paid work. Many of them maybe have like a lot of personal projects that they do for fun, and they want to start to get more paid work. And here I am. I can give them work through you, and I get what I want. I get to outsource projects your students get work. It's like win-win, and you get more exposure. Your course, you can show that it works. People are getting work, and you can't build a community, or like the best community in this sense is not only to have students that don't get paid or work. The best community are people that are like both can give work, can take work, the circle of life.
Yeah. I love that. That's why I think I love it, because it's like it's a win-win-win. It's like companies, they have projects they want to do. A lot of them contact me. I don't want to do that stuff. But my students, they would love to do a lot of 3D projects. So the company gets what they want, the students get what they want, and I get what I want, because my students are getting work, they're getting better, they're improving. So it's only a win-win-win situation. So yeah, everyone wins. One day you're going to find someone that can do exactly what you do. He's going to fulfill the work for the companies, and you're going to be making the exact same amount lying on a beach.
Like you do in Bali. Wow.
It's going to be a good moment for you. Yeah.
Can't wait. And also right now I have a friend here in Sweden who works as like a seller, or like a he is a seller, but more for a company to get customers, like finding appropriate customers. And he's working right now at a company for video that focuses on videographing and photographing. And he will start working part-time for us as well after the summer to get even more work. That's why mainly I'm looking for. So he will, and that's also because we want it risk-free, that his deal will also be based on the projects that he gets in. So he will get a couple % for the connection instead of a base monthly salary. So for him as well, if he gets a lot of customers, he can get a lot of money. But it won't be a risk for us, because it would be based on the profit that we are gaining for the
commission based. Yeah.
And obviously I probably could do that work myself. I could contact companies, and I think I can talk and sell, but I want to focus on, or I want to be able to focus on like the visualization part. And I'm happy to pay someone to get even bigger clients with more exposure, like bigger companies, and bigger works or like projects.
Yeah, it depends on where your time is best spent. For me, it's not necessarily doing one-on-one calls, which is why the whole thing is group now. Because I don't need to say the exact same thing I told you to every single student. I can just record it in a video and give that to people, or do mastermind calls where it's a whole group. And then that saves me time, and I'm delivering the same result in a shorter amount of time. Where my time might be spent is instead, working on things that will help get more customers in. And even with that, it's better for me to make one YouTube video and post it, rather than spend all my day reaching out to individuals on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. And eventually you'll get to a place where you're starting to do more high value tasks for the time that you're doing. And at some point it's going to be stop actually delivering the work and start focusing more on the client relationships and things like that. Because that's what's going to help bring in more money for the company, more projects for the company. And then at that point, if you decide like, hey, I actually like to do some of these projects and sacrifice making the money and stuff, then that's up to you. I mean, it's the same case with me. If I really wanted to, I could do 3D projects. I have the choice to. I just don't feel like it. So, yeah, that's one of the challenges with having a business. It's like you have to keep thinking about like where's your best spent, and where the biggest bottlenecks for the business, and trying to just like unclog those continuously. And that's how you grow. So how much did you say you're charging on average these days to like studios and stuff?
So smaller, like if we have companies that only want a couple of images on the new product that they have. Usually we charge $100 per hour, and it usually takes maybe a week or something to complete a couple of images to prepare the model and stuff. And then when we do bigger animation projects, we base it on an hourly salary, but usually the hourly equivalent would be a lot less than 100, so around like 60, 80 or something. So and also we have a partnership with a big design studio here in Sweden, a design studio that that they want to, because when you're like designing, when you're like the parts of designing a product, you usually have like a ideation sketch phase. You're like drawing examples, and then after that, it could be a huge leap to a prototype. So some studios, they do a lot of sketches, and then when they have a sketch that they like, they do a prototype of that sketch. And if they don't like it, they go back to the drawing board. And nowadays, a lot of studios still have that huge gap in the process, but they want to add something in between so that doesn't waste so much time when they like prototyping a product and then have to redo. So, and that's the case with this design studio. So what we're doing is we're getting those images or like the hand-drawn sketches, and then we do visualization images of the design alternatives and bring them back to them so that they can more easily do changes before they do the expensive and time-consuming prototypes. So that's huge. We're like, I think I'm working like 120 hours a month only with that, which is super fun because I get to work with a design studio that exploring a lot of different design alternatives, and I can like visualize, because a lot of them are older, and you know how 3D visualization is for older people. They're like, oh wow, have you made like a prototype? Is this a photograph? I'm like, no, this is just like 3D done in computer. What? Yeah. It's insane. So we're really helping them spending like saving time and effort with the prototypes, and the design therefore becomes better because they can, when they actually make a prototype, they have had a lot more knowledge of the design alternatives, so that so it's a super good extra step to have.
That's a great position you're in, because if you're saving this company money and you also become that one person, you become very specialized in that, and if that guy doesn't know anyone else that can do what you're doing, like you're in a very good position. Because you could still, the more money you save, the more you can charge, and it's a win-win for both of you.
And for that we're taking like, I think $80 per hour, more or less.
So for like a 2-month project, how much did you say, like on average, you charge?
A 2 month?
Yeah, like if you do like a whole lump sum.
Hold on, I would probably offer them around 20 to 25K, and
that's in
probably euro.
Yeah.
And they would probably get that down to like 18 or 20 or something.
Cool.
So yeah.
The great thing, the great thing with what you're doing is over time you can just keep increasing your prices if you really want to. So you can get paid more for the same work, or you could just get more clients at the same price. And then that's how you end up making, 100K as a studio, or even a lot more. That's what a lot of studios do.
If you get project requests, you can, who to send them to. Send them my way. I get them.
They'll go straight into my community. Well, you're part of the mastermind, so I do post all of the project commission. A lot of my students has gotten projects from that. I had a guy sign up a couple days ago. Within the first 10 minutes, I tagged him on a post for a job. So hopefully he gets that. But but you're part of the mastermind, so I'll post those in there, and then it is a first come first serve. If other people take forever to contact them, then it's all yours.
Yeah.
So
is it in the school?
it's in the mastermind. I've literally got a category for all the job listings.
Right.
Dean also posts job listings because he sometimes runs out of time too, and I post a lot of the job listings that I have. But yeah, I think what you're doing now is great because, if you're charging 25, 30K for projects, I think you're in the right ballpark rather than, dealing with these like people that email me and they're like, oh, I've only got a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there for different projects. I think what you're doing now is probably better spent with your time focusing on the bigger fish and then putting them through your studio that way. Would be good.
Yeah, we're doing smaller projects as well, but those are like projects that we're getting done in a couple of days. So we have a lot of projects. Like the majority of the projects are companies that just want a couple of images, and that takes 3 days, and we get 2,000 for it or something, euros, so 20K in here. But yeah, because those are so small, we can do a lot of them at once, and it's super fast. And then it's easier to sell in bigger animations. Some of them have led to bigger animation videos because I can tell them that we did this and like this render. So we have done all the material preparation and the model preparation, like everything is done. So we are able right now to do an animation cheaper because all the preparation work, a couple of days work, is eliminated. So we just have to do the actual animation, and then they charge 10,000 for it or 15. So
yeah, you have the opportunity to be like making 100K because you just need like 5 projects at 20K and then you're there. So
a year, I hope, not a month. We don't have
well,
I can't do that much.
Yeah, that's a thing. You're going to constantly be dealing with fulfillment, like unlocking all the bottlenecks there, hiring people to do the work, and then you have enough people to do the work, and then you go out there and get more, and then you're dealing with you're constantly like, this is the problem I've dealt with. Like first I was doing one-on-one coaching, and then I got way too many people, and then I had to deal with the problems of like, how do I fulfill all of this at once? I literally can't accept people. I closed down the program for a few months, closed down entry. And then it's like, okay, like figure out how to package all of this stuff so that everyone gets the same results. Then it's like, okay, how do I get more people in? And then you go through that phase. And then like, you've got the new bottleneck of like, okay, first I was able to handle 10 clients. Now I can handle 20. Now how do I handle 30? And then you just keep growing. And then that's how a lot of companies pretty much grow. It's just fulfillment and client acquisition pretty much. Yeah. Cool.